Hello, everyone. And again. And we're back with the Uniform Commercial Code, Article 1, Provisions, Part 2, General Definitions and Principles of Interpretation. Because we all like to interpret. But here is the UCC's General Definitions and Principles of Interpretation for Part 2 of Article 1. 1-201 General Definitions. This may take a while and may be drawn out. I'm sorry. That's why I split it up like I have. 1-201 General Definitions. A. Unless the context otherwise requires words or phrases defined in this section, or in the additional definitions contained in other articles of the Uniform Commercial Code that apply to the particular articles or parts thereof, have the meanings stated. B. Subject to definitions contained in other articles of the Uniform Commercial Code that apply to particular articles or parts thereof. So, I don't think I'm going to tell all the numbers. We're just going to read the words and their definitions. Action, in the sense of judicial proceeding, includes recoupment, counterclaim, set-off, suit-in, equity, and any other proceeding in which rights are determined. Aggrieved party means a party entitled to pursue a remedy. Agreement, as distinguished from contract, means the bargain of the parties in fact, as found in their language or inferred from other circumstances, including course of performance, course of dealing, or usage of trade as provided in Section 1-303. Bank means a person engaged in the business of banking and includes a savings bank, savings and loan association, credit union, and trust company. Bearer means a person in possession of a negotiable instrument, document of title, or certificated security that is payable to bearer or endorsed in blank. A bill of lading means a document evidencing the receipt of goods for shipment issued by a person engaged in the business of transporting or forwarding goods. Branch includes a separately incorporated foreign branch of a bank. The burden of establishing. A fact means the burden of persuading the tier of fact that the existence of the fact is more probable than its non-existence. Buyer in ordinary course of business means a person that buys goods in good faith without knowledge that the sale violates the rights of another person in the goods, and in the ordinary course from a person other than a pawnbroker in the business of selling goods of that kind. A person buys goods in the ordinary course if the sale to the person comports with the usual or customary practices in that kind of business in which the seller is engaged, or the seller's own usual or customary practices. A person that sells oil, gas, and other minerals at the wellhead or minehead is a person in the business of selling goods of that kind. A buyer in ordinary course of business may buy for cash, by exchange of property, or on secured or unsecured credit, and may acquire goods or documents of title under the pre-existing contract for sale. Only a buyer that takes possession of the goods or has a right to recover the goods from the seller under Article 2 may be a buyer in ordinary course of business. Buyer in ordinary course of business does not include a person that acquires goods in a transfer in bulk or as security for in total or partial satisfaction of a money debt. Conspicuous, with reference to a term, means so written, displayed, or presented that a reasonable person against which it is to operate ought to have noticed it. Whether a term is conspicuous or not is a decision for the court. Conspicuous terms include the following: a heading in capitals equal to or greater in size than the surrounding text, or in contrasting type, font, or color to the surrounding text of the same or lesser size, and language in the body of a record or display in a larger type than the surrounding text, or in contrasting type, font, or color to the surrounding text of the same size, or set off from surrounding text of the same size by symbols or other marks that all call attention to the language. Consumer means an individual who enters into a transaction primarily for personal, family, or household purposes. Contract, as distinguished from agreement, means the total legal obligation that results from the parties' agreement as determined by the Uniform Commercial Code, as supplemented by any other applicable laws. A creditor includes a general creditor, a secured creditor, a lien creditor, and any representative of creditors, including an assignee for the benefits of creditors, a trustee in bankruptcy, a receiver in equity, and an executor or administrator of an insolvent debtor's or assigner's estate. A defendant includes a person in the position of defendant in a counterclaim, cross-claim, or third-party claim. Delivery with respect to an instrument, document of title, or chattel paper means voluntary transfer of possession. Document of title includes bill of lading, dock warrant, dock receipt, warehouse receipt, or order for the delivery of goods, and also any other document in which regular course of business or financing is treated as adequately evidencing that the person is in possession of it is entitled to receive, hold, and dispose of the document and the goods it covers. To be a document of title, a document must purport to be issued by or addressed to a bailee, and purport to cover goods in the bailee's possession which are either identified or are fungible portions of an identified mass. Fault means a default, breach, or wrongful act or omission. Fungible goods means a good of which any unit by nature or usage of trade is the equivalent of any other like unit. or goods that by agreement are treated as equivalent. Genuine means free of forgery or counterfeiting. Good faith, except as otherwise provided in Article 5, means honesty in fact and the observance of reasonable commercial standards of fair dealing. Holder means the person in possession of a negotiable instrument that is payable either to bearer or to an identified person that is the person in possession, or the person in possession of a document of title, if the goods are deliverable either to bearer or to the order of the person in possession. Insolvency proceeding includes an assignment for the benefit of creditors or other proceedings intended to liquidate or rehabilitate the estate of the person involved. Insolvent means having generally ceased to pay debts in the ordinary course of business other than as a result of a bona fide dispute, being unable to pay debts as they become due, or being insolvent within the meaning of federal bankruptcy law. Money means a medium of exchange currently authorized or adopted by a domestic or foreign government. The term includes a monetary unit of account established by an intergovernmental organization or by agreement between two or more countries. Organization means a person other than an individual. Party, as distinguished from third party, means a person that has engaged in a transaction or made an agreement subject to the Uniform Commercial Code. Person means an individual, corporation, business trust, estate, trust, partnership, limited liability company, association, joint venture, government, governmental subdivision, agency, or instrumentality, public corporation, or any other legal or commercial entity. Present value means the amount as of a date certain of one or more sums payable in the future, discounted to the date certain by use of either an interest rate specified by the parties if that rate is not manifestly unreasonable at the time the transaction is entered into, or if an interest rate is not so specified. A commonly reasonable rate that takes into account the fact that circumstances at the time the transaction is entered into. A purchase means taking by sale, lease, discount, negotiation, mortgage, pledge, lien, security interest, issue or reissue, gift, or any other voluntary transaction creating an interest in property. Purchaser means a person that takes by purchase. Record means information that is inscribed on a tangible medium or that is stored in an electronic or other medium and is retrievable in perceivable form. Remedy means any remedial right to which an aggrieved party is entitled, with or without resort to a tribunal. Representative means a person empowered to act for another, including an agent, an officer of a corporation or association, and a trustee, executor, or administrator of an estate. Right includes remedy. Security interest means an interest in personal property or fixtures which secures payment or performance of an obligation. Security interest includes any interest of a consignor and a buyer of accounts, chattel paper, a payment intangible, or a promissory note in a transaction that is subject to Article 9. Security interest does not include the special property interest of a buyer of goods on identification of those goods to a contract for sale under Section 2-505. The right of a seller or lessor of goods under Article 2 or 2 Alpha to retain or acquire possessions of the goods is not a security interest. But a seller or lessor may also acquire a security interest by complying with Article 9. The retention or reservation of title by a seller of goods notwithstanding shipment or delivery to the buyer under Section 2-401 is limited in effect to a reservation of security interest. Whether a transaction in the form of a lease creates a security interest is determined pursuant to Section 1-203. Send. And send in connection with a writing, record, or notice means to deposit in the mail or deliver for transmission by any other usual means of communication with postage or cost of transmission provided for and properly addressed, and in the case of an instrument, to be addressed specifically thereon or otherwise agreed, or if there be none, to any address reasonable under the circumstances, or in any other way to cause to be received any record or notice within the time it would have arrived if properly sent. Signed includes using any symbol executed or adopted with present intention to adopt or accept a writing. State means a state of the United States, the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, the United States Virgin Islands, or any territory or insular possession subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. Surety includes a grantor or other secondary obligor. Term. Term means a portion of an agreement that relates to a particular matter. Unauthorized signature means a signature made without actual, implied, or apparent authority. The term includes a forgery. Warehouse receipt means a receipt issued by a person engaged in the business of storing goods for hire. Writing includes printing, typewriting, or any other international reduction to tangible form. Written has a corresponding meaning. On to 1-202. Notice and knowledge. Subject to subsection A. Subject to subsection F. A person has notice of a fact if the person 1. Has actual knowledge of it, 2. Has received a notice or notification of it, or 3. From all the facts and circumstances known to the person at the time in question, has reason to know that it exists. B. Knowledge means actual knowledge, or knows has a corresponding meaning. C. Discover, learn, or words of similar import refer to knowledge rather than to reason to know. D. A person notifies or gives notice or notification to another person by taking such steps as may be reasonably required to inform the other person in ordinary course whether or not the other person actually comes to know of it. E. Subject to subsection F, a person receives a notice or notification when 1. It comes to that person's attention, or 2. It is duly delivered in a form reasonable under the circumstances at the place of business through which the contract was made, or at another location held out by that person as the place for receipt of such communications. F. Notice, knowledge, or a notice of notification received by an organization is effective for the particular transaction from the time it is brought to the attention of the individual conducting that transaction, and in any event, from the time it would have been brought to the individual's attention if the organization had exercised due diligence. An organization exercises due diligence if it maintains reasonable routines of communication, or of communicating, for communicating. Blech. Significant information to the person conducting the transaction, and there is reasonable compliance with the routines. Due diligence does not require an individual acting for the organization to communicate information unless the communication is part of the individual's regular duties, or the individual has reason to know of the transaction and that the transaction would be materially affected by the information. One 203. Least distinguished from security interest. I'm probably only going to read through part B and stop at C for today. A. Whether a transaction in the form of a lease creates a lease or security interest is determined by the facts of each case. B. A transaction in the form of a lease creates a security interest if the consideration that the lessee is to pay the lessor for the right to possession and use of the goods as an obligation for the term of the lease and is not subject to termination by the leasee. And 1. The original term of the lease is equal or greater. 1. The original term of the lease is equal to or greater than the remaining economic life of the goods. 2. The leasee is bound to renew the lease for the remaining economic life of the goods, or is bound to become the owner of the goods. 3. The leasee has an option to renew the lease for the remaining economic life of the goods for no additional consideration or for nominal additional consideration upon compliance with the lease agreement. Or 4. The leasee has an option to become the owner of the goods for no additional consideration or for nominal additional consideration upon compliance with the lease agreement. Now, like I just stated before starting this section, I'm going to stop right there for now. We still have sections C, D, and E on UCC 1-203, lease distinguished from security interest, to finish up. We'll talk about that tomorrow when I have a little more time. Until then, have a great day. I will see you all later.